Tony.
Put that on the floor for 1 cup of rice.
Does Tony have it?
No, I have it, but it's expired. So Donald is going on his way home. You weren't here when we were talking. Donald's on his way home, and he's going to send it to Aurora, and so she will have it right there and then. But it's 570 something megabytes, so it has to be downloaded.
Okay.
So I don't know how long that's going to take. So in the meantime, the rest of the program could be started. So
yeah, we're live now. So Gabby, you can start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first in the Community Services Converse. My name is Gary Adams, and I'm your host for tonight, or this evening. Our program's topic for this evening is Be Prepared for Anything. We have 2 main speakers, Tony Blake and Cameron Wilson. Both will introduce themselves at the appropriate time. But we sit back right now as we have our opening prayer.
Thank you, Gary. Could we please all bow our heads for opening prayer? Dear Lord, thank you for gathering everybody here today on the beautiful Sabbath day that you provided for us to rest and gather together and to reflect on what you've done for us. Thank you for everybody represented here, all the families represented. Please bless them and provide for them and be able to heal them, and whatever ailments or struggles or trials they're going through, please provide support and help us to always support each other, support those who are in need in the world, and help us to always prepare for whatever may come at us, and please provide us support during those trials and difficult times, Lord. Thank you for everything we have today, and thank you for blessing us with all the luxuries and opportunities that we have living in this country, Lord. In your holy name, amen.
Amen. So for special music today, it's Eye is on the Sparrow. Thanks, Betsy.
Why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches over me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. He watches me. His eye and I know he watches. I know he watches. I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. He watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. He watches me. He watches me. I know he watches me.
Beautiful, beautiful. His eyes on the sparrow. So Cameron, why? Why do we need to be prepared?
That is an excellent question, Gary. And I just so happen to have a presentation for that very question. Just gonna
Excellent.
share my screen. One moment. Is everybody able to see that? Yep.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining today's community service Converse. And Tony, Gary, and I wanted to present on emergency management and emergency preparedness, why it's important, and specifically further on in the presentation about emergency alerting. So just a very brief background on myself. So as many of you know, my name is Cameron Wilson. I'm a field officer. I work for Emergency Management Ontario. So it's a government organization that works specifically to prevent, mitigate, respond to, and recover from large emergencies. So things like forest fires, major flooding, power outages, basically any type of major emergency that you hear in the major news or local news, all different types of things. So the first question I want to ask, and it's not necessarily something that you need to answer right now, but how long would you be able to survive with the food that's in your house right now? Like, just think to yourself, like, how many days, how many weeks, how many months would you be able to live on whatever you have in your pantry or in your fridge or in your freezer right now? For some people, depending on the amount of space you have in your home, your living situation, it could be a very long time. It could be a very short amount of time. Depending on what level of preparedness you will have, that will determine how comfortable you will be if there was a situation where there was not food or very difficult to obtain food. Other questions that you might ask in regards to preparedness are, if there was a fire at your front door, blocking your main exit to your residence right now, how would you get out? What would that look like? For some people, it could be, I'll just go out the back door. For some people who live in an apartment or a condo or a townhouse, very different question. Like for me, if fire is blocking my front door, well, then I have to figure out how to get out of a window. These type of questions are things that we have to ask in terms of preparedness. If there was a situation where you had to leave your house very quickly, how quickly would it take you to gather your essential items? If you're prepared and you have essential items like, a small amount of food, important documents and clothing, maybe some survival gear depending on the weather, and it's all in a bag ready to go by your door in your go bag, it's 2 seconds. You pick up the bag and you leave. But if you're not prepared, you'd be running around looking for all these different items that you think you might need. And think how long it takes you to pack for a trip. Now imagine packing for a trip and you have 5 minutes to get everything and you're maybe never coming back. It's a question that, once you start thinking about it, you start wondering, it's like, oh, how prepared am I? And that's why thinking about emergency preparedness and being prepared for emergencies is important. And that's a very general topic. And Tony's going to speak on this later. He has a presentation later for that. But I'm going to talk specifically about one part of emergency management, which is emergency public alerting. And I'm just going to rearrange something here. Okay, so emergency public alerting, not just for missing kids. So what is emergency public alerting? I'm sure all of you have at some point seen this notification pop up on your phone. And I'm sure you know the sound that it makes because it's something that often wakes us up in the middle of the night. But for anybody who doesn't know the sound, I'm just going to play it very briefly for you because it's something that I'm sure you really don't want to hear. And for those of you who may be listening, you don't have to check your phones. I'll just be playing it. But that's the official alert ready tone from Canada's emergency alerting system. And one of the things that people are more familiar with this sound is for Amber Alerts. That's why I started off this presentation with emergency alerting. It's not just for Amber Alerts. There's a lot of other uses that the system is used for. And it's just whenever you hear that sound, you know that it's an official emergency alert. So there are two types of public alerts. And I just want to claim as a disclaimer that a lot of this information is official information from like government sources, but some of it is my own interpretation of it. So some of the terminology isn't necessarily what you're going to be able to find online, but I just broke it down to make it easier to understand for everybody. And the presentation is just to give you an idea of what's out there. There's a lot of resources that I'm not going to cover, but it's just going to give you a better understanding. So there are two types of public alerts. There's intrusive and subscriptive public alerting. So public alerts come in many different forms, but they generally have two different types, intrusive or subscriptive. Just from the names, you can kind of tell what type of alerts these will be. Now you don't have to know these terms, but understanding the difference between them two can help build your, emergency preparedness toolbox. And it'll help you understand what type of alerting systems are available in the regions that you live. So the first one I'm going to explain is the intrusive alert. This is the alert that you get on your phone if there's an Amber Alert, if there's an extreme weather situation or a major incident that's occurring in your area. The sound is purposely made to be loud and annoying. It's supposed to make you sit up, listen to it, and in some cases reach out for your phone and cancel it because it's so annoying. I know I've done it before. It's not something that, even though I work in emergency management, even though there's so many people I know who work in emergency management, sometimes we get this alert and we just cancel it because we hear it all the time. So these intrusive alerts are sent out using, as I said before, the alert ready system. So the official goal of this system is to deliver critical and potentially life-saving alerts to Canadians through television, radio, and LTE connected compatible devices, which is basically your phone. And you'll notice too, if you're ever watching TV or around a TV that's playing CP24 or something like that during these alerts, there'll be a red bar that pops up on the bottom of the screen, and that will provide additional information. So it's a good idea to, whenever you see that alert, and if you're around a TV, say you're out in public, the TV will have additional information that your phone may not have. Although the messaging is going to be the same, but as they update these messages as situations are ongoing, they provide new information. So alert ready is considered a broadcast intrusive alert. That means it's going to go everywhere. You can't avoid it. It's purposely made so that you can't avoid it. It's going to go to your phone. It's going to go to you on the radio. It's going to be on TV. And these alerts can only be sent out by authorized government organizations. So this is OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police, EMO, which is Emergency Management Ontario, which is the organization I work for, or Environment Canada. And if you're getting this alert, and if the information in this alert is coming from an official government source, it's government advice directly from those who have the most up-to-date information. And you can, 99% of the time, generally see it as accurate. There's one situation that some of you probably might remember in regards to this information being somewhat inaccurate, and I can speak to that a little bit later. So what are the pros of Alert Ready? What are the pros of an intrusive alerting system? The number one is you're going to hear it. You're going to pick up your phone. It's going to wake you up at night, and it's going to give you specific instructions and current information on the emergency. So it's going to, if you get the alert, there's going to be something telling you what to do. If it's an alert that you have to take action for, if it's an alert that you need to expect more information, the main thing is to pay attention to this information. The other pro or advantage of the Alert Ready system is that the alert is local to your area. That means that if you're getting this alert, except in the case of an Amber Alert, this information is for you in that specific area, in your city or in your town, sometimes even down to your neighborhood. So an example of this is that it actually ties in really well, because the windstorm on May 21st, which is officially called in the meteorological circles derecho, or I don't speak Spanish, so maybe I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. That alert went out on May 21st. A lot of you probably got the alert, and you probably definitely seen the effects of it, or maybe you had to take cover, get inside, or you're inside watching trees and debris get blown around with that really aggressive windstorm. So when I started at Emergency Management Ontario, we were trained on the software platform, which would actually send out these alerts. And these alerts can be to specific regions, cities, and specific areas within the city. And the alert also works for people entering an area which an alert has been sent. So say you get an alert on your phone that says a hazardous chemical spill has happened east of Bathurst, west of Yonge, south of Steeles, and north of Finch. Can anybody tell me what is in that area from that information? It should be pretty clear, but that's where Emmanuel SDA is. That's where the church is located, in between those four streets. So the alert would tell you specifically what is happening, what instructions to take. And if you're, say, on your way to church and an alert was sent out for that area or for that region of North York or Willowdale, if you're on your way to church and the alert was already sent out, when you enter that area, you're going to get that alert on your phone. So it's trying to, let people know to either stay away from the area, or if you're in the area, what to do. There'll be specific instructions. And one of the ways that we saw that this alert system is effective was the May 21st windstorm. And just to explain what happened for those of you who might not know the specifics. So derecho is a widespread, long-lived, straight-line windstorm that's associated with fast-moving group of severe thunderstorms. And the last derecho that happened of that level of severity in Ontario was in 1999. So they're not very common, but when they do happen, they do cause a lot of destruction. And in this case, 11 people passed away. So this alert that went out very quickly before the storm did save lives. Like, a lot of people were out and about. There were so many stories that we heard from our work and people we knew that said, oh, when I got the alert, I was going out, but I went back inside because the storm was very aggressive, very violent. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of these pictures on the news. This was up in Uxbridge, where an actual tornado touched down as a part of this storm. And you can see, it was strong enough to flip cars. So imagine you're driving along, you get this alert, and it's telling you to get inside a building or get back in your house. You're not going to want to be in your car when these winds come and flip you upside down, because it's a very strong, very dangerous storm. And one of the other aspects about this storm I'll explain is that you might not have gotten this alert when it went out on May 21st. And the reason is because this alert that is sent out by Environment Canada is sent out specifically when there are wind speeds of over 130 kilometers an hour or 7-centimeter diameter hail, which is basically like golf ball size hail. So if either of those two conditions are predicted, they'll send out an alert specifically for that area. But as the storm was moving from southwestern Ontario to southeastern Ontario, it originated closer down in the Windsor area in the States, and then moved east towards Ottawa. Certain parts of the province, Environment Canada was tracking the storm, and as the winds died down, getting some feedback there. As the wind started to die down, they thought that the storm was like, starting to go away. So they reduced the alerts for certain areas. So, the wind speed goes down to 120. They would say, okay, well, the storm isn't getting as serious. We're going to turn off the alerts. But the thing is that this is a very rare storm, and storm prediction isn't a perfect science. So even though the storm didn't really die down, they turned off the alerts for some areas. That's why some areas didn't get it. But the thing is that you should still pay attention whenever there's going to be severe weather on the horizon, because what's the difference between 125 kilometer-hour winds and 130 kilometer-hour winds? It's still going to knock down a tree. It's still going to blow you away or flip your car. It's something that you should pay attention to no matter what like the wind speed is. And if there's something happening severe in some other part of the province and related to a storm, it might be headed your way. Winds go from west to east. So if you hear about something happening in Hamilton or in Windsor, and it's a very aggressive storm, something's probably going to hit Toronto. So it's just a good idea to pay attention to the weather. And I guess my main message to people with these alerts is don't ignore these alerts. You might be ignoring a message that could just save your life. A lot of the people who died from the storm on May 21st were killed by falling trees. I mean, a tree is thousands of pounds. If it falls on you, that's it. And just being inside or being inside a building that has, a structure to it will really protect you. And even though I say don't ignore these alerts, I'm definitely a person who has ignored these alerts in the past. Like I'll get it late at night and I'll just instantly turn it off. So, because it's, it wakes you up and you're not really thinking, but it's really a good idea to not ignore these messages. And sometimes we do that because if there's a lot of amber alerts, we might just, instantly try and switch these off. So what are the cons? Sorry, was there a question? I saw Gary's hand go up. Or maybe I'm just seeing things. All right, we're good. And if anybody has any questions, please just throw your hand up, and hopefully we have somebody in the chat. So what are the cons of these broadcast intrusive alert ready systems? So one I already said before is that people ignore the message. Sometimes there's a boy who cried wolf scenario, especially in regards to amber alerts. Another disadvantage is that some people may not have phones which are compatible or live in areas with poor cell coverage. And the alert ready system and the company that runs it is trying to fix that and make it more accessible to phones. And they've generally increased the amount of phones that are compatible with the system. And sometimes, as I said before, the rules which determine who gets the message aren't perfect, as which was the case on May 21st with that windstorm. And I want to quickly just talk about amber alerts. So sometimes, every time there's an amber alert that goes out in the news, there is guaranteed people saying, why am I getting an amber alert? I live in Toronto. The amber alert was from Barrie. Why are you waking me up at night? And some people even call the police to complain about the amber alert that came on their phone, which is just, if it was your child that was missing, would you not want as many people or resources available to find it? So I don't find that argument holds much water. But one of the reasons that amber alerts, or I suspect that amber alerts are so widespread when they're sent out, is because if a child is abducted, they can be taken a very far distance very quickly. Like I used to work in the court system, and judges have told me stories about cases where a parent who doesn't have custody of a child will take the child, and Toronto's not that far from the US. In some cases, they were able to reach the border by the time an alert is going out. So even though it might say, oh, there's a child missing in Barrie or a child missing in London, they could be halfway across the province. Or halfway across Southern Ontario in the time it takes to get that alert out. So they really do want to get that information out as quickly as possible. And although, you like look at it as like, I'm not even in that area, it's still a system that they want to put in place to protect children. And the cons that I want to address as well is my phone compatible with Alert Ready? You might be wondering, you've have an older phone, or you might got it in a phone from somebody else that might be a few years out of date, which is fine, but sometimes older phones aren't compatible with newer systems. So the first thing I'll say is that if you have this type of phone, do you think that your phone is compatible? And this is actually a trick question, because for some alerting systems, this phone is not compatible. For Alert Ready, this phone is not compatible. However, if you live in the Durham region and you're within 10 kilometers of the nuclear power station, there is a specific emergency alert where they will call landline phones directly if you are in 10 kilometers of the nuclear power station in the incident of a major emergency. Now, I know I don't have a landline, I don't even know anybody with a landline anymore, but it's still something that can be useful. Even in emergency management, one of the pieces of equipment that we are issued is not a rotary phone, but a phone that with a wire jack that connects into a phone line, because if everything's out, if cell towers are out, one of the last things to go are copper phone lines. If you can find a phone jack, you can make a call. So even though this is like ancient technology, there is still like practical uses in an emergency situation. And it's just one of the pieces of equipment that we're issued as field officers. So one way that you can find out, or the way you can find out if your phone is compatible, is to check on the Alert Ready website. If you go to alertready.ca/wireless, there'll be a big list of service providers, and you click on your service provider. Say you're with Rogers, you click Rogers, and then they'll give you a list of all the phones that are compatible. And you can see it's like, oh, I have a Samsung Galaxy S20. Okay, I'm compatible. So you can check to see if your phone's going to be getting these alerts. But by now, I think a lot of us have gotten enough of these alerts to know whether a phone is compatible or not. However, if you just, everybody else is getting these alerts whenever you hear about these Amber alerts and you're not getting anything, you might want to just check and make sure that your phone is compatible to be able to get these alerts. So one thing I do want to say is that there is a test schedule for these alerts, just so we don't surprise people, so people don't panic. But of course, you know, people are busy. They're not like, it usually pops up on the news, but you know, it's easy to miss. So just as a heads up, the next test date for the Alert Ready system is Wednesday, November 16th at 12:55 p.m. Obviously, nobody's going to remember that. I'm going to forget it, but just know that these systems are tested. And these systems actually are used a lot in Ontario. So in 2022, we've used the Alert Ready system 17 times, 2 Amber Alerts, 6 thunderstorms, and 9 tornadoes. And 2021, we had 71 usages. So 7 civil emergencies, 6 Amber Alerts, and 58 tornadoes. 2020 is more diverse. We had some radiological hazards, Amber Alerts, 60 tornado warnings, 2 wildfire warnings, and 10 civil emergencies. So this system is very localized. Like, we won't hear every single alert that's going to happen, but there are alerts going on pretty frequently around the province. The province of Ontario is very large. So there's a lot of stuff going on that we down in the south of Ontario may not be aware of. So the biggest con for Alert Ready and for intrusive alerts in general is that it allows us to be proactive, but not, sorry, it allows us to be reactive, but not proactive. We want to be proactive with emergency preparedness. Yeah, double slide there. So we want to be proactive. This is where subscriptive alerts come in. So as I said before, there's 2 different types of alerts. There's intrusive and subscriptive. So intrusive is an alert that intrudes on your life. It's going to come into your phone no matter what. You're going to hear about it. A subscriptive alert is one that you, as the word states, subscribe to. And even though I'm using the word subscription, everything is subscription based now. All these alerts that are subscriptive are free. They're offered by first responder organizations, by social outreach organizations, by governments. They're free. It's something that they want people to sign up for, because they want to be able to alert the public to whatever's going on in terms of emergency alert. So as I said, they're available from many different platforms and from many different organizations, and they may arrive as texts, tweets, calls, or emails. And it often takes less than a minute to sign up for some, and some require a little more work to sign up for, but not that much work. If you can, you know, send an email, you can subscribe to these alerts. It's nothing very complicated. And we're going to go over 3 examples of subscriptive alerts that you can sign up for, just to increase your own level of emergency preparedness. So subscriptive alerts, they allow you to get more localized emergency information and preparedness tips. So for example, if a key bridge in your neighborhood was going to flood and it was going to be either damaged or unsafe to cross for vehicles, the provincial government isn't going to send out a broadcast intrusive alert to everybody's phone in that region for something so minor. That system is really reserved for major incidents or life safety incidents where people are at, you know, risk of imminent danger or the possibility of death. But a bridge being flooded out, that's not something that they would generally use that system for. But subscriptive alerts, which you sign up for, that are provided by your local municipality, they might put out an alert for something like this. Things that aren't going to, you know, end the world or something like that, but there's something that's going to be inconvenience to your day, or you should know for safety reasons. That's why these subscriptive alerts are useful. So some municipalities have their own local alerting system to which you can subscribe. So Durham region is probably an area where some of you live. I don't know if anybody's in the region of Waterloo right now, but that's 2 municipalities that provide their own specific alerting systems. And depending on the system that these cities use, they could be in the form of text messages, emails, or sometimes calls. So as I said before, these alerts are a good way to get emergency information specific to your area for smaller incidents that may not warrant a broadcast intrusive emergency alert from Alert Ready. And additionally, it's a good way to receive information for a hazard that's specific to your area. So as you know, the Darlington nuclear power generating stations and the Pickering nuclear generating stations are both in the region of Durham. They're both close together. And that is a way to get information about a very unlikely situation that might involve some sort of release of nuclear material or nuclear radiation. Highly unlikely, very unlikely, but just because it is a type of hazard that's specific to those regions, they have a specific plan and systems set up in place to alert the public on what to do if there was the possibility, if there was a situation where they needed to know about a nuclear situation. So I've subscribed to these 2 regions. It's very easy. I can send out this deck later if you wanted to have these links, so you can subscribe yourself if you're interested. And it's basically an emailing list. Like you would click the link, you'd put in your email, there's a whole list of different type of alerts that you want to be alerted to. A lot of it is like municipal stuff, like say you wanted to know about kids camps in the region, you could check that box. But the one that we're concerned about is emergency alerting. So there's a checkbox where you click on emergency alerting, and anytime news from this municipality of Durham region went up on their website, you'd automatically get an email. So you'd be getting information from the source, potentially quicker than some news organizations or some other first responder organizations. And oftentimes these emails will contain information that will help you not just let you know what's happening, but what to do, what information you're going to need, what type of supplies you need to gather, what routes are safe to travel. So it's good to have this information as quickly as possible in an emergency situation. The region of Waterloo has a similar system, but theirs is a bit more like the Alert Ready system in that you'll be sent a text message, you'll be sent like alerts to your phone that you'll be like, oh, I got a text message from the region of Waterloo about flooding in my neighborhood and I should avoid that area. So again, this is a similar situation where you click on the link, you sign up for the information, and you can get these alerts to your phone. And I know a lot of people here live in the city of Toronto. So Toronto has a bit different ways of doing things. They don't have their specific system, but since the city is so large, they're connected to a lot of media outlets. They're also connected very closely with the province, just being such a large municipality, and they would probably use the Alert Ready system to inform people about a major incident that's happening. But also specific to Toronto, just because it's the region that a lot of us are from and are familiar with. Emergency services also have their own alert subscription services. So some of them provide an email service, such as the Toronto Police. So this is an email distribution service similar to Durham, in that you would sign up, put in your email, and you can subscribe specifically to receive info about the TPS division in which you reside. So the Toronto Police divides all of the city of Toronto into different divisions. I believe I live in 43 division. There's about 10 or 15 different divisions, and you can get alerts specific to your area. So for me, part of the area I live in, Scarborough, is the email list that I was subscribed to. So whenever there's an intense situation happening, if they want to inform the public, you'd be able to get alerts directly from Toronto Police. I know about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was an incident where a man was walking towards an elementary school with a rifle down our street. And this was about 3 or 4 days after the shooting in Texas. So obviously everybody's on high alert for that situation, and Toronto Police had notified the public through this service and through other methods, which we're going to get into later. So it's a useful thing to have if you want information specific to your almost neighborhood. Like they'll send out alerts about which intersection, and they're very fast with that. So the third subscription service that I want to or the second subscriptive service or application that you can download is the Weather Can app, which is from Environment Canada. So the most common extreme hazards are related to weather, like extreme heat, winter storms, thunderstorms, tornadoes, any winds from hurricanes that are coming up from the south. This is what a lot of hazards are based off of. And having an accurate and timely weather alerts and being aware of the weather forecast greatly assists with personal preparedness. Even just, if it's winter, should I take a jacket? Like how thick of a jacket should I take? Could be the difference between, just walking around town comfortable and, being freezing. It really does help and just helps you plan better. And Environment Canada weather reporting is relied upon by emergency management organizations across the country, including EMO. Like we use Environment Canada reports and our official reporting when we're talking to other like first responders and emergency management professionals across the province. Weather app, phone app that you can download from the Google Play Store, from the Apple Store. I don't know what the Apple version is called. It's easily downloadable. It doesn't take up a lot of space on your phone, and it sends you alerts when extreme weather is heading to your area. So some other features about the Weather Can app. So it has current conditions, hourly, and 7-day forecast for over 10,000 locations in Canada. So wherever you go in Canada, you're going to be able to get like timely and accurate weather alerts. It also has push notifications to your phone. So you're going to get a specific, like it's not going to be a text message, it's going to be an actual alert that comes to your phone and says, hey, there's going to be severe weather in your area. It also has weather information for your location, depending on where you are. So if you, fly across the country, you're doing a long distance road trip, it's going to alert you about weather, about the area that you're going into. Another useful tool, it has a high resolution radar map. So it's not something I used to use either, but if you look at the weather forecast radar map that's available on like the Weather Network, the Weather Channel websites, you can actually see like where the rain is going to be coming, like just the actual cloud and the storm, where it's going to hit. So you can know, you're going to know if you're going to be in the area that is going to be affected. And the app also provides information about facts and climate information relating to current weather. And it has a short range weather forecast. So you can just, pick up your phone and know what the weather is going to be like. Because that's a really key information for emergency preparedness and just for going about your life. It's good to know the weather. And the app isn't as visually attractive as some other weather apps. I know I'm one of those people that likes to have like my phone screen look good, but it really does provide like the fastest and the most accurate information. And again, Environment Canada is the government body which sent out the wind alert on May 21st. So they're reliable and they're fast. So that information, getting it quickly, could really save your life. But by far, the fastest, the largest, the most information dense, most heavily relied upon subscriptive emergency alerting platform that's used by governments, first responders, NGOs, and emergency management professionals is. So I'm gonna let you try and guess in your heads what you think the most valuable and probably most used emergency alerting platform is. That you probably know it already, so you probably guessed. Now, I'm not 100% sure this statement is true, but I'm 95% sure that this is correct. But the most heavily used subscriptive platform is Twitter, 100%. Like in my job, like we're looking at Twitter all the time. Like whenever I've worked with first responders, with police, everybody's looking at Twitter. Like we're getting information on how to respond to organizations, how to respond to events through Twitter. Every municipality, every first responder organization, news outlet, social service organization posts on Twitter and reads Twitter to inform the situational awareness and decision making and to provide emergency information to the public. So if you wanted to know what is happening in an emergency and you wanted to get that information fast, probably the best platform is to get it from Twitter. But, and this is a big but, as you can see, and I made it really big to make it very clear because this part is important. Twitter is social media. What is the rule for social media? Check your sources and fact check against a verified source of information. So not everything you see on Twitter and social media is factual. A lot of it is not factual. A lot of it is misinformation or disinformation. And during emergencies, emergencies are very confusing situations. Oftentimes, something's happening, people are like, oh, why haven't they told us anything? What's going on? How come they're not, letting us know where to go or what to do? Oftentimes, first responders and government agencies are trying to figure out what is going on as well. Like, not all the time do we have people on the ground. We rely on, a lot of different sources for information, and everything that we put out has to be confirmed. And it's not always that people are trying to lie or spread misinformation on purpose. Maybe they just have the incorrect information, or they don't have the full context of what is happening. So that's why it's really important to, if you see something, just check where it's coming from, and then fact check it against a verified source of information. Sometimes official government Twitter sources are slower than the news media, or definitely slower than the public, but often that's because we are checking and verifying information before we send it out. I mean, the number one thing that we don't want to do as an organization is to send out something that's false, or send out a piece of information that makes people do the wrong thing, take the wrong action, because that's just gonna, create even more confusion. And although some Twitter sources like the Toronto Police are very fast because they have to be fast, and they're also at the ground level, so they're providing like minute by minute updates. For example, like man reported at XYZ intersection with a rifle, ETF responding, stay away. Like, that has to be put out very quickly. And since the police are usually the ones on the ground first for those types of situations, that information generally can be trusted. But then again, even in any emergency situation, like, look for the updates. There's always going to be further information or more information coming, especially if the first information just says, something's happening, watch out. There's going to be more information following up. So just keep your ear to the ground, keep your ear to your, news sites, to Twitter if you have it. And I have Twitter. I don't post anything on it, but it's very useful for following, emergency management information. I use it a lot for work. And I use it just to follow interesting news sources or stuff that's happening in the world. But it's a very useful platform to have, and you don't really have to, you just look at it. You don't have to use it really or post on it. I definitely don't. So you might be wondering, what are some useful Twitter accounts to follow? So this information is specifically for Toronto, just because that's where Emmanuel is located and where a lot of the members are. But with any of this information, there is the counterparts for this same organizations in the region that you live outside of Toronto. If you're in Durham region, instead of following Toronto Police, you follow the Durham Regional Police. Or for Toronto Hydro, if you're outside of Toronto, it's Hydro 1. Let me just see if, just some other notes. So although Twitter is probably the one which we follow the most, other social media platforms are useful as well. Like we follow Instagram, like every other type of social media platform we use, but Twitter is the one that we usually have the most eyes on. And a lot of organizations use the most to put their information out. Some communities use Facebook. I know in Northern Ontario, like in the First Nations communities, their platform of choice for news and communications is Facebook. But generally down in the South, a lot of the best information can be found. So useful Twitter accounts to follow for emergency preparedness and to keep your situational awareness levels high would be Toronto Police Organization, that TPS operations. So they have hour by hour updates on incidents in Toronto. It might not be relevant to your area, but if there's a major incident happening in the city, they will be involved 100% and they will have rapid updates. And if you go on the Toronto Police Twitter, you'll just see how much stuff is happening in Toronto. It's nonstop. Like, I've worked with Toronto Police on several major incidents, and it's busy. It's very busy, but they can provide really accurate information and timely information when there's a major incident happening. Another useful Twitter account would be Environment Canada and Climate Change Weather, ECCC Weather Ontario. So it's emergency weather specifically for Ontario. And they provide alerts on severe weather, and they provide a lot more detail in the WeatherCan app. So say, for example, you have the WeatherCan app on your phone, you get an alert that pops up about a thunderstorm. If you check the ECCC Weather Ontario Twitter, they'll have full maps showing you where the winds are going to be coming from, like what you need to do. They'll have a lot more information that will help you supplement just the fact that you know that there is a severe weather situation happening. For those who live in Toronto, the Toronto Hydro, useful to follow during power outages. They'll be able to tell what areas they're working on, when service is expected to be restored. They have a power outage map that they show what areas of the city are going to have power on and how long. And they also tweet during severe emergencies. So Toronto Hydro is very active. They have, very important organization because, they provide power so we can, live our lives and do what we need to do. So they're also very useful. in terms of flooding, the Toronto Region Conservation Authority tracks a lot of the flood and river monitoring in Toronto. So if you live near a ravine or you're close to the water that you've ever experienced flooding, you might experience flooding. Following this Twitter account will give you an update on, what the water situation is like, if your areas are going to be flooded, what to watch out for. Oh, whoops. I've gone there too fast. Sorry, 1 second. I just have 4 more that are useful to follow. So TTC service alerts. If you rely on TTC for transportation often, it may be useful to follow their account during an emergency. TTC also works very closely with Toronto Police. Like if there is a major incident happening at an intersection near you, TTC isn't going to send buses down that way if Toronto Police are blocking off the intersection. So those 2 accounts are useful to follow for transit information. This is an obvious one, but CP24. CP24 is very fast. They're very current. I know they just have constant news all the time, nonstop, but they're actually a pretty good information. Like emergency management organizations, we follow CP24 in major emergencies. So they're a good one to have. Also, in the, again, highly unlikely incident that a major nuclear incident occurs, especially in the Durham region, you'll get the most accurate updates directly from the operators of the Pickering and Darlington nuclear power plants. That's the OPG, Ontario Power Generation. Again, if you live outside of those areas, not so relevant, but it's also just a good thing to have. And the other last Twitter account to follow would be Ontario Warnings, which is the official Twitter of my organization, Emergency Management Ontario. And it's good for emergency preparedness information and resources. We generally don't put out alerts. We leave that to more first responders and municipalities, but general information about emergency preparedness, what resources you would need, and just ideas that will help you prepare better can be found on the Ontario government website or through Ontario Warnings. So I believe that is the end of, for my presentation. And I just want to know if there are any questions. That was a lot of information. And again, if you see me later, and you have a question, you can just ask me. But are there any questions in the chat?
There is one question in the chat.
Okay.
Should I read it?
Oh, I can actually see it now. Sorry.
Okay.
If I register my phone, will the alert come to the area I'm currently or only to my home area? So if you register your phone for, say you live in Brampton, you would get alerts for Brampton if something is happening in that area. Say you're somewhere else, right? You're not going to get alerts from Brampton just because, like, you're going to get the alert for Brampton just because you're signed up for it. But if you're somewhere else, a different municipality, you wouldn't get alerts for that area that you're in unless you signed up for it previously. Some people who work in my line of work, like I sign up for alerts all over the province just because, like, we work provincially, right? So it's good for us to know. But if there is a major incident that is going to affect like your area, that's, a life safety issue, that would come through the alert ready system and you will get that. Like if your phone is compatible, you'll get it. So if there's something that's very serious, you will get it. And are there any other questions just in person, or anybody who wants to, ask it on the mic?
It's a question.
The question?
Yeah, my question.
Okay.
Are there any alerts for, say, new or say novel viruses or something like that, like outbreaks that are about to happen?
Generally, no. There were, in the beginning of COVID, there was a couple alerts. Those ones, I mean, it's not like they put those alerts out before anybody knew what COVID was. COVID was well known by the time they sent out those alerts. It was more just a general, let the public know that this is a situation. But generally for outbreaks, they don't use that alerting system. I guess, especially with the experience with COVID-19, they really want to put out accurate information because, there was a lot of times where people weren't sure exactly what was happening. So now they just say, look at the Ministry of Health website. It's generally not used for those type of alerts unless it's something that's considered like immediate life safety. Those are the ones that they use it for. Oh, and one more thing, I guess I forgot to say. So next week, we're going to be there's going to be available at church these small emergency preparedness pocket guides. I don't know if you can see that. So these are from the Ontario government for my work, Emergency Management Ontario, and we're going to leave them somewhere, maybe in the foyer, just for people to pick up. And it contains like very, it's not anything complicated. It's like, what do you do if there is a flood? What do you do if there's a tornado, winter storm, power outage? It contains lists of what you need to build a small family emergency survival kit. It has a place you can write down emergency contact information. So you would keep just a small pamphlet like this, like in your emergency go bag or with your emergency supplies, so that if something happens, you just have a quick reference to be able to use in the future. And yeah, they're really small. It doesn't take up much space, not much to read, because in an emergency, nobody wants to read a lot. You just want to get some quick information and then be able to take action. So we're going to have these at church available for people who want them to pick up next week. And if there aren't any more questions, I will pass it over to Tony. I think I went way over time. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you very much, Cameron.
Yeah, my name is Tony Blake. I know some people from church knows me. At this time, I'll be doing a presentation on the type of kits you have to have. There are three major kits that I've put together. One is your home kit, right? If you have whatever you have at home to save your life, to keep your life for 72 hours plus, there's one kit for that. Then there's a kit, as Cameron was talking about, that you'll have to pick up and go. When you have to pick up and go, there's a package kit for that. So then after, there's something for your cars. People who own cars need to have a kit in their car just in case something happened to them with their car. So those are the three kits that are going to be demonstrated on a video. And I'm asking Aurora to start, if she could start the video for me. Thank you. Flashlights in our scenes that we're doing, and I didn't talk about them. But now I'm going to talk about what you need these flashlights for. These flashlights are made to help people in times of disaster. So when the emergency people come to see you, the 911 people come to see you, they know where you are and what is necessary. And these also, in case there's a blackout and you're in your hiding place, you have something to see what you're doing. Also, in your window of your house, when you get to the window of your house, you have a beacon. So when emergency people comes to you, there's a beacon that they can see, and they know that somebody's in the house waiting to be rescued from danger. So that's what these flashlights are all about. Thank you. Hello, disaster preparedness. How should we be prepared in case of an emergency in our neighborhood, our home, or wherever we may be at the time when a disaster which we're not going to know that it's coming until it comes on us. There's such disasters as hail, basement flooding, severe wind, snow, ice storms, a lot of things in wildfires, especially wildfires now in Canada. So we need to know what we need to do in case of one of these things happening. Tornadoes and earthquakes are part of Ontario area that happens. Floods also happen in our neighborhood. So we need to know what we should do. Government has an alert system that started in June 15th. Between 4:45 and 5:15 was the first alert for Ontario. Today we still get that alert. Mainly, sometimes we get it as a kid missing. So it's all part of our alert system. So the system will tell us exactly what we need to do and what the alert is. So then they'll give you directions, maybe a stay-at-home direction that you stay at home and you wait for more information from the alert system. If you have to stay at home, you should have a supply in your pantry or wherever you keep your supplies, such as some soup, some packages, whatever you need for you to be continually able to do what you have to do at home. If, for instance, there's an earthquake or a tornado where your house is going to be destroyed, because if it's a fire, you have to leave your home. So if there's a tornado, you have to find a place in your house. So what I have done is find a special area in my house that with my family, tell them that that's the area, when we hear this alert comes, that's the area we go. At that point, you need to know how to get out of that area if you're locked in there when the disaster has passed. So that's for the axe and the hammer. So if you need to, when everything is passed, you need to get out because the doors or everything around you has been blocked. So you need things to help you to get out of there so that you can carry on with your life. So that's a good way of helping yourself. So in disaster, it's all on helping yourself for the first 72 hours. After that, the first responders and other people who are around gonna come in and try to get you. Sometimes it takes longer than 72 hours. So what you should be prepared for, especially in food items, is anything from a week supply to a month supply, so that you could know that these things are there ready for you to help. So that's stay at home. Now the time has come that you can't stay at home anymore, or fires happen that you have to leave. There's other things that you need. So what you should have to, your home is not livable anymore, so you have to leave, especially in fires or maybe in floods. So you have to leave your home. So these are a few things that you should have ready in your home that you could just grab and go. So we have clothes. You change your clothes, some nice towels, and just you need to help get yourself washed. Emergency blankets. These emergency blankets are very good because it might be so cold at night or something, and you need to get a little extra heat. So they help you with warming up yourself. Also, first aid kit. A first aid kit should be a kit in your home, a kit in your grab and go, and a kit in your car. Another thing you need is money, because we might come to a situation where you cannot get to use the bank cards that you have. You might have a lot of nice bank cards you could use. You might be down, and your machines or the towers that are around you might be down, and the machines cannot give you money through the banks or through the shopping centers or whatever. So you need to have some money with you. I suggest to people anything from $80 to $200 on your pocket. So if you have to go, you have money to help you buy gas maybe on the way, or buy some food that you might need. So that's something you should have. Another thing, you might not be able to wash yourself. Get a little sanitizers and all of that. For me, I have a way of what I have done is I have a brother-in-law that lives in Kingston. So if something happens with me in Toronto or Markham where I live, I call him up and I'm saying, I'm coming over because there's a disaster, there's somewhere for me to stay. That's something what we should do. We should have another place away from our homes that we could go to. If you have no place to go, then the parks would offer you a spot. So that's where we're gonna come in with this. We have a little stove, we need to get some food, a little tarp to make a cover, a little pot, and wipes and stuff, so we could get to help ourselves whilst we're waiting for the government to help us. So this is for us to do in time of this keeps coming down. Another thing that we need to have is, another thing we need to have is identification, because you might run out of your house and you couldn't get to your identification in your wallet or whatever you have at home. So in your little backpack that you're gonna run with, you have all your identification. So when you go to renew them, if they're destroyed by fire or whatever, the government would have easy access to get them back. The third thing that you need is a car kit. A car kit is you could buy them at any Canadian Tire, Home Depot, Walmart. There are all kinds of car kit, and it has some items that you need just to make sure that your car is not going to stop on you on the road. So you have a car kit with booster cables and all of that, little batteries for a little flashlight and all that. So this is how to be ready. If I'm in emergency preparedness, they would ask me to come and help in whatever way I can with people who have not gotten their stuff together and needs my help. So I'll be gone for 72 hours because I have to look after my family first. And everybody should think about that. You have to get your home secured, and then after you've gotten your home secured, then you could go and help the neighbors or the people who need your help. But first things first is your home. Make sure that they are able, you have them able and know where they are, so your communication with them is all settled in your mind, so you could go and help your neighbors afterwards. I think this is about all that I have to demonstrate on a kit for emergency preparedness. And if there's any questions, we're going to have a Q&A time. We could discuss that information at that point. Thank you. Yes, you guys have seen the kits that you should have to be ready in case of any kind of disaster that we may have. This time, if there's any questions, I could try and answer whatever question there is that we have. So the floor is on you guys.
Tony, I noticed you didn't have anything like crackers inside there, but there was the noodles.
I did that on purpose. Glad you saw it. I did that as a question. those are most important on the takeaway when if you have to leave your home, the granola bars and stuff like that, something that would keep you together when you have to leave. Just something to have to eat. Water, if you've noticed on the table, I have a whole case of water. Water is another thing that you should have as a help to help you sustain you for the time you're going to be gone from your home. So that's why that's why I wanted to answer these questions on those points, why they're not in the kit, why they're not shown in the kit, because I want you to know that those are important to have in the kit. Any other question?
So just a question here, Tony. It's Jason. Just wondering, is there like a specific sort of bag that you keep a number of these items in? I know you had them laid out on the table and so on, but is it like a duffel bag? Is it like a backpack to be able to run with? Is it a suitcase?
That's a very good question, Jason. Yes, and it's just a backpack, because if you're gonna try and get a big suitcase out of your house, you're running away from a fire that is in your house, that would be very, very hard to take. So within my home, we have a backpack for each person, myself, my wife, and my son, because my daughter is not here. When she was here, she also had one. We have 3 backpacks, and we know which backpack we should pick up and out of the door. One door might not be able to be able to get through, the other door is ready to get through. You always have access one way or the other out of your home, especially in a fire, because you need to save yourself. So it's just a backpack with a few things in it that would keep you sustained until you could get back on your foot, or that kind of.
Nice. Thanks, Tony.
I actually have a question.
One more thing about those backpacks, they should be customized for the needs of the person who it's meant for. Because for me, I might not be using a lot of medication, but for my wife, she has medication. Her backpack has to have that medication in it. My son, he needs inhalers. He has to have an inhaler in his backpack. These are things that we should consider when we're putting a get up and go pack together, kit together. I see Cameron has raised his hand. Cameron?
Generally, the number of hours to have like emergency supplies for is 72. But if you were like getting really prepared, like how long should you be able to be self-sustained for, in your opinion?
In my opinion, for if you have to leave your home, say just because of a fire, 72 hours, preparing for 72 hours is good enough, because the government has outlets for you to go to where you could be sustained from there on. But if you're gonna have to for a stay-at-home kit where your disaster's out there, but you can still stay in your home, then you should be prepared for 72 plus I say about a month. So that's the difference between staying at home and having to leave. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that it's really good to differentiate what you're saying in terms of, are you going to have to leave and come back? Is it a localized emergency, 72 hours, or if it's longer? And I can tell you, as like working for the government in emergency management, like 72 hours is what we aim for. But if there is a situation that is very large or very significant, it's better to be prepared for it as long as you possibly can, really. Like, I know there's levels to it. Like, there's people who go on full prepper where they're not even thinking about months or thinking about years. Like, they have seeds and stuff like that, where they're just like, ready for that, like the end of the world. But it is better to have more supplies than less, just because, like, you never know. Like, of course, we never know, right? Some cities are better supplied than others.
Yes.
Like, if you live in a smaller town, the supplies that the municipality might be a lot less than if it was Toronto. But at the same time, if something happens in Toronto that's very big, I mean, I think we all have lived through enough ice storms and power outages where it's like, some people got power back in 2 days, some people got power back in 10 days. Right? So it could be a lot longer than you think. So it's better to prepare as long as, you think reasonably possible.
On top of that, if for our stay-at-home kids, what we have done, the water bottles, the big water bottles that you buy in the store for whatever, like I get these water bottles. We have about 20 of them filled with water, just in case there's no water supply coming to your house. You have water to help yourself, to wash yourself, if you need to. You may not be able to flush the toilet, but you could help to wipe off yourself in whatever case, whatever position you're at. So that's also another item that you have to have a good amount for stay at home. For the kids that you take to leave, it's good to know that it's put in a place in the home that everybody knows those kids are there for emergency, just in case you won't have to run out. Exactly, instead of going looking for things, you know where those kids are, you pick it up and you go. So you have that ready, should be ready for you.
Okay.
Two participants raise their hands. There's two referrers.
Hey, Tony.
We have
This
This is Broston.
Okay, Broston.
Any information on emergency power, for example, generators and, that type of power?
Yes, I don't know. Generacs have this thing saying that you should have a generator in the back of your house and all of that stuff. I don't know how much that is a unique thing, but I know if you have a little power pack, that might be able to power up some of your stuff. But I do not know. I would recommend that people try and, if they want to go into that direction, go into that direction. But I do not. Because if your house is on fire, what is that? How does that help you? Generac help you with the home? So I don't know.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question, I recall during the ice storm, I think we were out of power for, I don't know if it's more than a week. We're pretty cold, so I was just wondering, whether that is considered. But you're saying it's not.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying it's how are you going to feel comfortable with that? If that going to make you feel comfortable, yes. An ice storm, it might make you feel comfortable, but to me, you should have warm sleeping bags, warm blankets that would keep you warm in the cold area. But at the same time, the government comes in and say, well, we can move you from this point to that point. So I just think that whatever you think is, and it's everybody's personal way of doing things. If a generator would help you, then yes, go for a generator. If whatever you could afford or whatever you want to do for yourself, yes, that's the way you go. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yep.
Mr. Wilson, I forget your first name. I'm sorry about that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I'm fine, Tony. Thanks.
Okay, Aurora?
Yes. So my question is, do you customize your bags, the bags that you take away with you, based on seasons of the year? Say, for example, like disasters can happen at any time, but if I have just one backpack to pack in, do I pack in warm clothes or clothes for the colder weather? Do I pack a pair of rubber boots in case of flood? Or so that's so two parts of the question is, how do you pack based on the season of the year? Or do you need to pack your emergency staff based on, say, the type of disaster? So depending on the disaster, say if it's a flood or tornado or whatever, or a fire. For flood, for example, I would be packing my rubber boots, but I may not need that for another time. So how do you customize packing your bags?
I would think that first thing is something you got to pick up and go. So that you got to think about that. And if you pack a lot of stuff in there, it's that you're going to start slowing down your time to get out of whatever disaster is there. So it's whatever you feel comfortable with. That it should be very generic, because you need to get out as quickly as possible. Because if you come to a flood and you have to get out, you have to have something, because if you have to go to the roof of your house or somewhere, a window of your house, and they're gonna get you from the top, then if you're gonna carry a load with you, it's gonna there is gonna be a lot of things to take. So whatever you feel comfortable with, very generic. It should be very generic. Pants, and then try to get the blanket or that in your pack, but just nothing too big, because you have to get out and go, and then you have to find a place where you could get the warmth and all that you might need afterwards.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony. Thank you very much, Cameron. I don't know if Cameron wants to speak on the handouts or Tony, and then we can wrap up.
I think Cameron already spoke on the handouts, that we're going to have them over on Sabbath at the foyer. And there's some handouts that I've been handing out from the last time I did a disaster preparedness. Some of it is still there, so people could get them just to read up on what they need to prepare themselves. And it shows like different kind of kits in that handout. So that's all we have.
Okay, then. No, generally we would have a fire drill at church, or a tornado drill, or a lockdown drill. Well, now that church is back in session, be prepared. We will let you know when we'll be having these drills. And by just listening to these presentations today, you'll realize how important it is to pay attention to these drills and to take part in them. So if there are no more questions, we're going to say thank you again to everyone. Sonia, emergency kit is just that, and regardless of the time of the year, water. Okay. Just see Sonia's emergency kit is just that, and regardless of the time of the year, water. Okay. Thanks, Sonia. So we want to thank you all for being with us. We have gone over time, but this is a very important topic, and I'm happy that we had Cameron and Tony to present to us. So let's bow our heads as we pray. Our Heavenly Father, you have been a great and loving Father to us. You have given us knowledgeable people who are able to bring information to us to share with our members about how to be prepared for whatever may happen. So thank you, Lord, for this presentation, and help us that we may be able to not just keep it to ourselves, but share with others also. As we have come to the end of this program, we ask you, Father, that for those of us who have other things to do, that you may be there with us and guide us and protect us in this coming week. Thank you for always loving us and being there for us, we pray in your Son's name. Amen. Thank you very much, Sister Betsy. Thank you, Aurora.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.